What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Burnout Brighter podcast. This is episode 39. I'm your host, Matt. This is a podcast all about mental health, video games, and a whole bunch of other stuff that we find is important, exciting, or just tickles our fancy. Darren, say hi.
Hello.
Destiny, say hi.
Hey.
And I'm very, very excited this week because we are joined by James from Interabang Entertainment. James, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing the do.
Doing the do.
That I take.
You
that
sound
back
like you just were writing like an infomercial or like a commercial for some product in the 90s. Do the do.
I was like, what did I interrupt? Go on.
Lord knows. So James, you're from Interabang Entertainment. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do there?
Yeah, sure. So I am the lead concept artist and animator over at Interabang for the upcoming project Jay and Silent Bob Chronic Blunt Punch. So
I love the name, by the way. Fantastic name.
Thanks,
I'm going to give all the credit to you for coming up with the name. I don't care who actually came up with it. As in my mind, you came up with the name, so it's awesome.
Well, I will take that credit.
Nice. How long have you been with Interabang?
So it's been about probably over 3 years now, I would say. And it's probably in an official capacity, I'd say. But
you're right.
Yeah, but I started work with them probably over 6 years ago when I was staying with Destiny out in Florida.
Nice. So we have a bit of a Destiny connection this week.
Yeah.
So Destiny.
Yeah.
How do you know James?
He's going to tell that story.
Okay, James, how do you know Destiny? Let's get some dirty details. Let's get some of the secret stories.
It's not even that dirty.
Secret stories.
So
I just want to say really quick, I was actually dating another guy in the industry when I met James. I was dating the guy who worked for Blizzard.
Right.
So.
That would explain your response to me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so when Destiny and I met, it was at college, and we were in the lounge at the same time, and I had seen her around just kind of sitting off to the side to herself drawing. And so at one point I decided to go up to her and see what she was working on, and I kind of looked over her shoulder and I saw that she was drawing this awesome picture, so I wanted to pay her a compliment, and I was like, hey, that's a really great drawing there. And without even looking up, she just goes, thanks. And
that is so Destiny. It hurts. It's nice to hear that even in college, you were still you, D.
Oh, yeah. She knew who she was.
And I bet she was just drawing massive dicks.
Yes. Very much.
That's a very nice rock piece.
Right. That's what drew me to it. Little did she know. No, and so,
I know. Shut up.
But funny enough, I kind of stood there after she just said thanks, and I was like,
awkwardly.
what do I say?
I was gonna say, what was your initial reaction? Like, no look up, no nothing, just thanks.
I was I didn't have a reaction. I was completely unprepared. And so I just kind of stood there awkwardly and quietly, and then gradually, backed away. And
did you moonwalk out of there?
I did. It was pretty funny. It looked like something out of a sitcom.
Yeah.
But look at us now. We've been through a lot.
So that was initial contact. How did you get her to have an actual conversation? Do you remember what step 2 was? Because then the third, thanks.
Wait till she's drawing another picture.
No, we had a modeling class together, like a clay modeling class, a sculpture class together, and he sat behind me with Hector. Was it Hector?
I think it was Hector and Jared.
So it was Hector and him, and I would hear him making jokes because he was really fucking funny. And I sat at the front of the class, and then
would. I got nothing behind that.
I had a kind of a little crush on our teacher. It was crazy.
This is all making more and more sense. Go on.
No.
I feel like when you go to your friend's house for the first time and their mom busts open the old photo albums. I mean, look at them as a baby. I feel like we're getting a little bit of baby Destiny here.
Oh my god! But so I'm gonna tell about the party, James. I'm gonna tell about the party. Okay. So we kind of became acquaintances, and then we kind of became friends, right? And so we got invited to this party, and I was like, James, are you going to the party? And he's like, yeah. Are you going? And I was like, I'm only going if you're going. And he's like, well, I'm only going if you're going. So we ended up going, And we got there and like nobody else had come, or we were really early or something. I can't remember. And so we're sitting there talking. This is like kind of in the middle. We're sitting there talking, and this girl, like in the middle of our conversation, climbs on top of James, like on his lap, and proceeds to make out with him while I'm talking to him. Now, at this point, I wasn't interested in James like that, but I think seeing her do that, I was like, well, maybe there is something to James I'm missing.
I should have climbed on that lap.
But I was pissed. Because I was like, this bitch is hella rude. She did not care that I was sitting there. She even kind of nudged me over with her knee. Like, it was like she was cowboy style. And James was like, he looked at me and I looked at him and I was like, well, I'm going to excuse myself because conversation is over. And then I left. And he, like, when he came up from air, came up for air, he was like, where did Destiny go? And they were like, no. I was like, yeah.
I was like, what?
I wasn't jealous. I was just like, I didn't know anybody else there. And the guy who was throwing the party was hitting on me. It was really creepy. So I was just like, nah, I'm going to leave. And then after that, I was like, I'm going to make him mine. And that's what happened.
Nice.
Right.
James, how is that story from your perspective? Because
Same.
It was the exact
right,
same.
but you gotta have some different feelings.
No, it was pretty much that. All I remember was like talking to Destiny, and then all of a sudden this set of lips just came, and like, and then when I came up about 5 minutes later, Destiny was nowhere to be found.
I was gonna say, I'm sure you wasted no time getting out of there.
No, I was like, ghost.
Right.
I don't really like parties anyways.
She threw a smoke bomb down and was gone.
Straight up Ninja Gaiden style.
Right. Nice segue.
I was out a lot more. Like, we went out a lot. I was out all the time. I don't think I was ever at home, which is very different than me now.
You're still out quite often now, though. More than before. More than when we first met.
Because of him, James.
And by him, she means Matt.
Yes.
You must
Because
be
you
a very
can't see.
special person.
Listen, I've had her fooled for about a year now, so I mean, it's I'm just keeping it going at this point.
There you go.
All right, well, let's get the podcast going with a round of random questions, as we always do. And what we're going to do after our last week's little triangular question fun time, that's what I'm going to call it. Love triangle. We're going to do the same this week. I'm going to ask Darren a question, so that way all the pressure isn't on me to think of these fucking questions every week. Darren.
You put that pressure on yourself.
Yep. Darren.
Yes.
If you had to choose to
He didn't think about it beforehand.
either play, okay, hold on.
Do you want me to
No,
start?
no. I'm going somewhere with this. If you had to play Super Mario Sunshine
Okay.
without Flood,
Yes.
Flood,
Okay.
or play Resident Evil, which one's the hardest one?
They've all got.
Resident Evil 2
Okay.
remake
All right.
without a flashlight.
Okay.
Which would you rather play and why?
Resident Evil 2 doesn't have a flashlight.
Fuck. If you which one of them has a flashlight that's pretty integral to the game?
None of them.
Okay. If you have to play Resident Evil 2 with
Are you sure you're okay with?
Knife only?
Yeah, knife only. We'll do knife only.
knife only, which would you rather play?
I would rather play. I think Super Mario Sunshine, because I think that might be kind of a more fun like platforming challenge. I think no, I take it back. I'm playing Resident Evil 2 because Super Mario Sunshine I don't even think is even physically possible without Flood.
But do you think you could beat like 3 levels?
No. I don't like the first like 3 levels. Like you need it. Okay, if it was physically possible, like if it somehow was, I would pick that because I think I would rather enter a like platforming challenge that was too difficult than have to deal with knife only in Resident Evil because like
You'd die.
I don't have the patience to do that. I don't have the patience to like kite enemies endlessly to try and like knife them slowly. But Mario Sunshine, at least with like a platforming challenge, it's like I can get better, I can improve.
Wait, is this him playing the game or him in the game?
No, him playing the game.
Okay. Because
So,
I was
like,
like, you'd die.
Mario Sunshine because I suck at Resident Evil.
All right, good one. I thought you were gonna go with Resident Evil, but because I feel like slipping and sliding on Super Mario Sunshine would be.
You can do that without Flood. There's like water in the levels. You can, like,
that's true.
You can wet yourself and then slide. Anyways.
Classic gameplay mechanic, wetting yourself. Darren, can you ask James a question?
James, I've got a question for you.
You fucking better not ask him how to clean shoes.
No, I'm not going to.
I know.
I'm going to assume, James, that you've played at least 1 or 2 video games in your life.
Well, what would make you think that?
You know what? You're right. I'm sorry to make an assumption.
Right.
I made assumptions make an ass out of you and me.
My word.
Except they
I don't
just
understand that.
Yeah. They really only make an ass out of me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to continue this assumption, this baseless assumption that you've played video games. And I'm going to ask you, out of all the video game food that you've seen, different special meals and foods in video games, which one do you want to eat the most?
That is, let's see.
That's a tough question.
That's a tough question. Wow.
Like, even for me to try and think about video game food, like...
I thought about the turkeys that drop in
Castlevania.
Damn, were turkeys just dropping in a lot of old games?
They were.
Oh.
They were like the go-to food drop. Because there's like in Streets of Rage.
Yeah, why turkey? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
And Castlevania. I think also like Ghosts and Goblins.
Why would turkeys drop in Castlevania when you were a vampire?
Good question.
Right?
All this poultry. I think also Gauntlet, I think, also had turkeys.
Welcome to the Poultry Cast.
Right.
I think Ninja Turtles had pizza, though.
That's true.
I would have been mad if they had poultry.
Yeah. So, based on that, I'm torn between the pizza in Ninja Turtles and the souls in Dark Souls. Because, I like to feed on souls every so often.
James, what do you think a soul tastes like?
That's two
I
questions.
think it varies from person to person.
I feel like those souls in Dark Souls would taste pretty rotten. They've done some questionable things.
Bitter.
I know, but you can't go wrong with soul food, am I right?
Okay. All right.
I'll be here all night.
That was amazing. Great answer.
So clever.
I would have never thought of souls.
Yeah. And the power that they give you too. I'd probably go with soul.
Yeah. Nice. I like it.
That's a great answer. James, can you ask our good old Destiny a question?
Sure. Let's see. A little ill prepared. Destiny, as a woman in the gaming industry, I have always wondered, what do you feel about the recent trend in video games relating to like female lead characters? Do you think they're written smartly, and why?
James picked a very thoughtful question, apart from my food question.
My question is not thoughtful as well.
Man, why do we have these guests on the show? They always come up with better questions than we do.
I think I'm happy that there are more female protagonists, because I know, like, growing up and playing games, I always wanted to play like the female, and like even in racing games, I would pick like the girliest color, just so I could feel like I was playing a female. I like it. I think they're bringing on more female writers, and they're getting more like, for example, the game that we just talked about, Senua's Sacrifice. I felt like she was really well written. I also like that she wasn't scantily clad and looked like some fucking beach model. So there's just nothing wrong with beach models, okay? I'm just tired of seeing that. Yeah. What I would like to see is people of color in the game. More representation of that, and written well. So, for example, I know I went off about Barrett. I don't think he was written well. I feel like he was written as a stereotypical, and I'm sorry, this is going to sound kind of bad, but what white people think Black people should sound like and how they should act.
Right.
Like that's what
Japanese people
or
think
what
Black
Japanese people think, but their view of what Black people are is what's in the media, and that's what's like showcased through like
Western media.
Especially
media.
Western major movies. Like that's probably their major touchstone, right?
And the people who own those things are white people.
Yeah.
So I like the way it's going, but I want to see more diverse characters. Like, I was really excited. I don't play Resident Evil because I don't like zombie games, but I know in one of those, there's a Black female lead.
Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
And she was modeled really well. She looked really good. That's another thing. I like them to look more realistic. So I'm really happy that they're trying. They're taking its baby steps. They're trying. I hope that in the future we get more lead characters. I know Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Those female characters were, and then that was pretty much a female-led cast.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very much so.
That was wonderfully done. So yeah, I think indie games are picking up on it more than I would say big time devs when it comes to making more realistic females and giving like their perspective and things like that. But I think since Life is Strange did so well and some other games did so well, that hopefully they'll start picking up on it. And I think they have with like Lara Croft, the reimagining. So
it's also interesting because I think like even people who consume the media are starting to grow up a little bit too. Like even if you saw something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which gave you a choice right at the beginning of the game if you could play as Alexios or play as what's her name? Now I'm blanking. Cassandra, thank you. And overwhelmingly, when the data came out, the majority of people picked Cassandra, which is awesome, right? And I mean, like, I would hope that these kind of things continue on.
Me too. So I think moving forward that it's going to get better. And I just hope, like, you know, with Interabang, I mean, I worked for them too. I would like Interabang to start making games with people of color. Because we have so many people of color who work for Interabang, and it's owned by a person of color. So I hope the next game that they put out, one of the, like the lead or one of the characters is. I mean, I know that I think Strugs was supposed to be Hawaiian. I'm not really sure.
I think he was Pacific Islander.
Yeah.
I think that may be in the pipeline. So.
Good. I'm gonna message Justin and be like, can we get some black chicks? Okay, so my question.
All right, here we go.
Matt, if you had to make a makeup line based on a video game character,
ooh, that's deep.
What makeup products would you make? Why would you make them? And how would you showcase them, like advertise them?
You know, we've had a lot of questions on this segment. I don't think I've ever been more nervous about answering one, just given my lack of knowledge. But
you can just pick 3.
Okay. If I had to pick, do I have to pick like a video game character to style them after, or like the makeup line is like based on video game, or like a certain video game? Like, what do you mean?
Like, so like Disney will do like a makeup palette based off of a character.
Right.
So
Okay.
Like, so just pick a character.
Pick a type of like a makeup product, and then a character.
3 makeup products.
Okay. Okay. I'll start with eyeliner.
Okay.
No.
Eyeshadow is good.
Eyeshadow
Eyeliner comes in like a couple of colors. It's like very basic.
Eyeshadow. I'd make some Bayonetta eyeshadow.
Okay.
I feel like it'd be fierce as fuck.
Okay.
And I think it would have some interesting things.
Okay.
And
would the colors be like bold colors?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that.
Okay.
They'd be some bold, powerful colors.
Does she wear bold colors?
She wears black.
Okay, then that wouldn't work.
I think you could do stuff though, like bewitching blue or gunmetal gray and things like that.
Exactly, her guns are colorful,
Stop helping him.
Thank you, man.
I'll go back to my
I'll give you 3 products.
Yeah. Okay, give me the 3 products.
Eyeshadow, which you already said.
Right.
Blush.
Blush, that's this stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
And lipstick.
Okay. For lipstick, I'm really trying not to pick stupid things.
No, I mean, Matt, just go with it.
Because I'd make some Bowser lipstick.
Okay. I like a nice green color.
Sure, and then you can also get some powerful reds, right? Some good popping colors.
Yeah, no, that's not stupid.
Okay. And what was the last one?
Blush.
For blush, I would pick Tifa. No, Aerith. I changed it to Aerith.
Okay.
She has the garden. She has lots of different plants, lots of different colors that she could pull off. And I feel like she would make some cool and like natural but fresh looking blush. I don't know if those are words used to describe blush,
perfect.
but that's what I'm.
You did a good job.
I like it.
Oh my God. You made it to the finish
I'd
line.
buy it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like I felt more prepared to answer your how do you wash your shoe question.
That means it was a good question because you had to think about it.
That was a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, guys, look at us. Look at me.
Learning.
Look at us learning. Great job, everybody. That brings us to our next little segment. So we do games that matter sometimes, and we usually like to do it when somebody new comes onto the show. So James, as your first appearance on the podcast, hopefully of many, what is a game that matters to you and why?
I feel like if I say Final Fantasy VII, that's probably already been used quite a bit.
No.
That's totally fine. Like,
say it because it's an amazing game.
I'll say it.
That, and like I feel like everybody's story with a game is different. Even if it's a game that's been brought up, your perspective is different, right?
Yeah.
So
okay, well then I'll go with that. I would say Final Fantasy VII. I haven't played the remake yet. I'm a little behind on that, but the original game came out at a time when I was a little younger, and I was a very, very quiet child, and so I was very introspective. And when I first played the game, it was my first RPG that I had ever played, so I wasn't used to the turn-based battle system. So when I got past the intro cutscene, I started playing the first fight, and I was like, I don't know what this is, and I turned it off. And it was probably a year before I went back to it and really got into it and started to like the battle system and get to know the characters and give it time. And it was, I think the reason why it resonated with me so strongly was that it was such an escape at a time when I really needed one. Because as a kid, as a middle child, I felt kind of lost a little bit. And so I kind of stayed in my head a lot, and it was nice to have that escape. And it was like a game that offered you these really cool, colorful characters, and a very in-depth battle system, and just a different world to escape into and really get involved in.
It's a really interesting mix of like science fiction in Midgar and then like fantasy once you go out to the outer areas.
Right.
Like I personally love that. I love mixing like sci-fi with fantasy and getting it all messy.
Sci-fi fantasy.
Right.
New fragrance.
Did that make you try and like play a lot more JRPGs after the fact? Like, did that make you play some other kind of games similar to that?
It did. It was definitely my intro into like the RPG genre, and so of course I got Final Fantasy VIII when it came out. But then I went back and started playing some of the older Final Fantasy games. I played Lunar, which was Silver Star Story Complete, I think it was, and just started really getting into the games for more than just the gameplay, but for like the stories and the characters. And
is Lunar for PS1?
I think it was, and it was a 2D sprite style art.
I think I have a copy of that game at my parents' place, unopened from when it came out and just like untouched.
Oh,
so I'm gonna. Is it a good game? Should I play it?
So
well, don't open it.
It might be a collector's. It might be a collector's item that you have on your hand. So I'm not sure. I would look into it before opening it and playing it. But
all right, I will.
But yeah, I had brought the deluxe edition with like it had like a hardbound book inside of it with like a map and all this stuff, and it really was a very good game. It's of its time, and it feels like a traditional like top-down view RPG with very much turn-based fighting, but it was very fun and had memorable characters.
So did you find yourself going back to Final Fantasy VII over time, like as you kind of grew up? If maybe there were times where shit was a little harder than normal, like did you find yourself kind of going back to it as a comfort game, or was it that first experience that kind of always stayed with you, and even those memories were like a bit of like a safe space for you to kind of go back into?
I think it's more of like the memories are kind of that safe space. My Final Fantasy VII copy is back at my parents' place, and I'm in Georgia now, and so my parents live in California. So when I go back, I don't really have a lot of time to jump back into it. But it definitely, when I think back on it, even like little things like the soundtrack. Sometimes, depending on where I'm like walking in the city, if it's like kind of a sketchy area, I hear the soundtrack of the Slums playing in my head, and it's just, it's something that does definitely stay with you. But it also opened me up to other games in that vein. So, like prior to that, or actually after that, I played Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and that was my first real dive into like the Legend of Zelda, which became one of my favorite game series after that.
Nice.
So
that's awesome, man. Well, thank you for hitting us with one of your games that matters. I know that on this podcast there is a lot of love for Final Fantasy VII, specifically from.
Yo, I just want to say, even though we joke about it, it's an amazing fucking game.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
like I don't like how you played it. I never went back to replay it because I felt like once I played it, it was like a completion. Like I felt fulfilled.
Yeah.
And then I was ready to go on and play like other games in a similar style.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. Like it opened me up to other games, but because it was the game that opened me up, that's like my OG. Like whenever somebody's like, "What's your favorite? Like one of your favorite games?" It's Streets of Rage and Final Fantasy.
It stayed with you, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, no disrespect to the game, I just like messing with you. I've played through about half of it, and I definitely, after now playing Remake, I am going to go back to it and play it through entirely because I'm curious to see how, like, just to go back to it. But yeah, well, that's awesome, James. Thank you so much for talking about Final Fantasy VII.
Jamesy, do you have a Switch?
I don't. So I'm like way behind on the gaming curve. Like I literally just got my first PS4 this past Christmas. So
Nice.
Yeah,
I don't even have one. So.
Yeah, I'm playing catch up. I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls lately, though.
Yes.
We should do a stream one day.
Maybe I'm not.
That'd be fun. All right, awesome. Well, then let's move on to our next segment. Let's go over to Darren. Darren, you've been not talking too much, so I'm gonna pull on you here.
Oh, okay.
What's new? Are you summoning something?
You don't say.
I am trying really hard to think about something new. I don't think I did a single thing this entire time of note. I literally just, for the past few days, surfed Reddit, watched YouTube videos. I'm going to start. I'll say something I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm going to start watching the second season of the What We Do in the Shadows TV show.
Nice. I've heard it's funny as fuck.
Have any of you seen the What We Do in the Shadows movie?
No. Yes, that's one with Taika
Waititi. Yeah.
What am I thinking?
You're thinking of Deadly Shadows. That's the one, Johnny Depp.
Oh, okay.
What We Do in the Shadows is like a comedy mockumentary about vampires living in New Zealand.
Wait, I thought he was wasn't he a vampire in some movie?
Yeah, Deadly Shadows.
Oh, okay, you're right.
Yeah. What We Do in the Shadows, comedy mockumentary. They turned it into a TV show instead of vampires in New Zealand. It's vampires in New York, I think. Except it's filmed like entirely in my hometown, and it's filmed in Mississauga.
Is it actually?
But it takes place in like the suburbs of New York.
No way.
Like that.
Okay.
And it is made by the creator of the movie, so it's not like someone's just trying to make like a easy ripoff. Like it's the same. The first season was like just as good as the film, and I hear that the second season is like even better.
Where are you watching it at?
Before it's on FX, but
Fox?
FX is also its own channel.
Yeah.
They do like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They do.
But FX is owned by Fox.
Atlanta's on FX.
FX was owned by Fox. Now
it's owned by
Disney.
Okay. So in the U.S., FX is Fox.
No, there's actually two different channels.
Yeah, but we just call it Fox.
No, there's like actually two different channels.
US.
Like Fox and FX are two different.
There's also
Really?
FXX.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did that start?
It was probably 10 years ago, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah,
10 years
I would
now?
say probably in the last 10 years. It is like one of the newer channels, but yeah, there's FX and like Fox is its own thing. But yeah.
Because FX was where they started. Like I remember it because they started showing like shows like Nip Tuck and things like that on it, and Spike.
Yeah.
Nip Tuck was on FX?
I think so. Yeah.
There was like The Americans, I think, was one, and
I'll look up a list.
the Fargo TV show was.
Because I
on
watched
FX.
Nip Tuck.
Yeah, Justified, Nip Tuck, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The League, Sons of Anarchy.
I guess I just thought it was Fox because it said FX.
Yeah, Atlanta's on FX as well.
Yeah, Atlanta's FX.
Well, I don't watch Atlanta on FX.
Yeah, no, I know.
Now I'm going to be watching it on the internet because I don't have FX anymore.
Yeah.
But
Darren, would I like this?
It's like the same. It's like the quirky humor of Thor Ragnarok, but like dialed up a lot quirkier.
Maybe I'll give it a watch. I've heard it's hilarious. I've heard it's really funny.
It's like very like awkward misunderstanding humor, but I think it's funny.
Cool.
It's really, really funny.
That's awesome. James, what about you? What's new? What have you been up to?
Oh, just animating.
Are you guys still in lockdown? Like, are you at home all the time?
I am. Georgia's strange. I mean, Georgia kind of opened up in what a lot of people would call a premature fashion, and we're still kind of like isolating until everything is a little more clear.
For sure.
I normally what I would do in between like my downtime, I would go and do jujitsu, but because of the situation, that's been put on hold for the time being. So I've just been at home a lot and just drawing.
Yeah. How's the animating going? Are you Interabang just recently, like in the last 2 weeks, put out Jane Silent Bob Mall Brawl, right? Darren and I were actually playing a bit of it before the podcast started just to kind of get a feel for the game. It's awesome so far, so congrats. I know you kind of tangentially worked on it a little bit, but the game is a lot of fun. And now you're working on the next project, right? Can you tell us just a little bit, just like an overview of what you're working on?
Yeah, so it's basically a project called Jay and Silent Bob Chronic Blunt Punch, and it follows Jay and Bob on a crazy new adventure. And so it's I basically do the character design and concept art, and then help the animation. So I kind of set up how the characters move, give them their kind of personality, make sure their movements have like the right weight and posture and all that stuff.
I have to say, from videos I've seen on YouTube, like I really like the animation and the art. It looks really good.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. They give me a lot of creative freedom, and so it's often the case where they say, if you think you're going too far, go further, and then we can dial it back from there. So
nice, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys are partnered with Adult Swim Games, right, on the Jane Silent Bob series? Is that right?
I don't believe so.
No, maybe I read something.
Was that
was for Combo Man?
Super Combo Man. Yeah.
That was for Super Combo Man. Okay, sorry, my bad. Okay, well then that's awesome. So how did that? Can you talk a little bit about like how that?
Wait, you didn't ask me what I've been up to, and we're going into the interview.
Okay, I'll ask after.
Well, that's basically what I've been up to.
I haven't talked about my stuff either, Dustin.
I know, but I feel like we're going into the actual thing now.
I just want to pick his brain a little bit. I'll pick his brain after. All right, cool. So then, like, outside of animating, have you been watching anything, playing anything? Have you been doing anything, reading anything? Or just kind of relaxing, kicking back a bit?
I've most of the time has been honestly just work. But in between, I'll find like little windows to go, and like if I need to relieve some stress, I'll go and challenge myself with a couple of games of Dark Souls or something like that. And
nice, that's awesome.
Yeah,
are you playing the first one?
Yes, yeah. I came a little late to it, so the first game in the Dark Souls series I played was the second one, which I found out afterwards a lot of people think is like the worst of the series.
But it's still a good game.
But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I was challenged by it. Like when I first picked it up, I was like, I had beaten a boss, and then gotten arrogant and like died, and then went back to go get my souls and fell off of a cliff, and I was like, I just lost 10,000 souls, and I like put it away. I was like, I'm done. But then I went back to it, and so I've been kind of playing that.
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How far are you in the first game? Where are you?
Oh, I just beat that. What was the guy, the Chaos guy down in the depths?
Oh, like the Chaos Fire stage, or like
the one after you beat Artorias. So I beat Artorias, and then you go through Ulasil. Manus, yeah, that guy. I just whooped him pretty
nice.
Fierce, yeah.
That is one of the most difficult fights in like the whole series. So, like that.
Yeah,
awesome. Good job.
Thank you. I felt
cool.
good
Awesome.
after.
That's awesome. Thanks, James. Destiny, what about you? What's new, Destiny?
Don't do that.
What's
The
new?
reason why I said that is because I didn't want you to ask him all the questions and him talk about everything he
I know.
talk about. Okay.
I'm just giving a shit. What's new? Seriously.
All right. So, I also wanted to say that James and I work on the webcomic, and he's our lead artist for the webcomic as well.
What's the webcomic?
I don't want to plug it.
Plug
it.
No.
James, can you plug the webcomic?
No, don't do it, because I want this to be about this.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
We'll get you to plug it another time.
Yeah.
We'll get you to do it.
All right. So what I've been doing is I've been watching this anime called The Ancient Magus Bride.
I've heard it's really good.
It is. Like, I started it a while ago, and then I stopped, and then I started it again. So I've been watching that. How
do you like it?
I really like it.
Yeah?
I really like it. I feel a little weird because, like, there seems like there's a huge age gap between the two main characters, but I guess because, like, one of the characters is, like, not really human.
What else is new for anime?
I remember seeing like the poster for it, and I was like, that looks weird as fuck. But I've heard it's really, really good.
It is really good.
My brother's been trying to get me to watch it.
And they keep like iterating, like, he's just like a child too. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Good old anime rules.
Yeah. So that I restarted Broforce on the hardest setting.
Nice. Is it a big? Is it a big?
Love that game.
Is it a big difficulty spike? Like, is it noticeably harder?
Well, no. Okay, so at first I was like, this shit is the same. And then as we kept going, I noticed there are lots more enemies.
I see.
So that's what makes it like a little harder. And then it's like, you keep playing it and then you do stupid mistakes that get you killed. It doesn't feel like the game is harder. It feels like I keep fucking up. Like,
Yeah.
I definitely shouldn't have jumped then, So playing that, still playing some Animal Crossing. I feel upset because Flick still hasn't visited my island, and it's lagging my game.
You have too many
I have
bugs.
too many bugs, and it's lagging my game. But I don't want to get rid of the bugs because I know I'll make a lot of money.
I guarantee you, if you hit the point that you're like, I'm going to sell these fucking bugs, they'll show up like the next day.
Yeah, I'm not. I just stopped catching them, and I'm making new friends, on the game, like other black female friends on the game, and that's really cool because I didn't realize this, but I don't have a lot of female friends who are black who also game.
Interesting.
Nice.
I didn't know that.
Are you meeting them through the Facebook group?
Yeah, I'm meeting them through the Facebook group. I'm actually part of a black Facebook group thing, but I don't really talk to people on Facebook, so I'm just like lurking.
Yeah. You watch other people talk.
I watch other people talk, but in this group I'm actually speaking and I'm like participating and like talking. So I added some new people and I was really excited about that. Making friends.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
And I've been following this guy who I now have a star crush on. His name is Patrick McLeod. He's hilarious. I don't know, James, I don't know if you've seen him. I'll send him to you. But he's a gamer.
Okay.
Is he the guy that does the dad jokes with the kind of dreads?
Yes.
Oh, I love that guy. He's hilarious.
I fucking love him.
He is so funny.
My God. He's so funny.
Yeah.
And he's like, the first thing I noticed, like, I watched his videos like a long time ago at like this party. They had it playing. But the first thing I noticed is he has a tattoo of the Triforce on his hand from Zelda.
Good taste.
So I was like, yeah, he's dope. So now I'm like commenting on his stuff, like, please, senpai, notice me. And so he'll like some of my comments, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm in there. And yeah, that's what I've been doing. Just
That's awesome.
chilling, yeah. I'm working. I'm working on the comic.
Very cool. Matt, what are you up to?
More Persona.
Yeah.
More Persona.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a little bit more of the new stuff. Continues to be awesome. I'm not going to really spend much time on it. More Animal Crossing. Like I said, I did play some of the Jay and Silent Bob Mall Brawl, and I think it would be really cool if we did a Let's Play on it too. If we did an episode of BOB Games, we can do some co-op brawling.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. It's hard.
Yeah, the first level killed me. I couldn't beat it.
Yeah.
It's tough,
I
but
suck at the game.
Yeah.
You should try to play Super Combo Man.
We should. We'll do that too. Outside of that, I mean, I've just been watching more anime. I've also restarted Star Wars Clone Wars, the
Animated show?
the animated series. Yeah. It's just wrapping up on Disney Plus now, so I kept hearing about how good it gets, and I like Star Wars, so I started that.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm like only 8 or 9 episodes into the first season, so I still got a long ways to go. But I've just heard so much about Ahsoka and her journey through the show, and I'm so curious to see what her story is. So I started that, and it's great so far.
Oh,
so.
the 3D animated one.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. I never liked any of the spin-offs of Star Wars. I only like the first 3, and I don't mean like the prequel.
The originally
the original,
yeah.
like that's it. I only like those 3, and then everything else. sorry, jump. Everything else, I'm kind of like, meh.
Yeah, I've been kind of the same, but I've just heard such good things about the series, and they said that it's some of the best Star Wars, period. Like, not even just like a TV show, like the best Star Wars. And with Rosario Dawson being rumored to be playing Ahsoka
in another movie,
in the future, whether it's Mandalorian or there's rumors about her taking on the role. I wanted to learn about the character, so I'm in.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
she seems. James, do you think she'd be a good fit for her? Because Ahsoka seems so young.
She gets older as the series goes, but she's like top fan cast, from what I understand.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you watch much Star Wars, James?
To be honest, I don't. I did. As a kid, I didn't really get into it. I was more into like bad horror movies and things like that. So, Star Wars was a little before my time, and.
Well, you can kind of call the new Star Wars movies kind of like a bad horror movie.
That's what I hear.
James, have you seen the original 3, like all the way through?
Yes, okay. I did. I did a watch party with one of my good friends not too long ago, and we watched all 3 of them. And yeah, I could see why they were such a phenomenon when they first came out, and I developed an appreciation for them. Let's say that.
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to our main topic for today's episode. So, James, you work, like, as we said, like as a developer. You work inside the games industry.
Not a developer.
Not a developer, but an animator, right? Yes. Like, I mean, I'm just kind of
what's the difference?
I'm using developer as like an umbrella term.
Developer usually implies like a programmer, someone who's doing like the code development of the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's shitty. Because I would think anybody who's helping to develop the game
that's always how I understood it.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I could be very wrong.
I don't know if you're wrong, but I don't like that.
Yeah.
So.
I've always just understood as a developer as someone who works at like a development studio making
part
the game.
Of the dev team, right?
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, so what's something that we've talked about before, and one of the most prevalent and consistent stories that gets brought up in the video game industry is crunch, right? For anyone unaware, crunch is usually referred to as the insane hours, that video game developers will have to work either early on or trying to hit milestones, or even right up until the launch of the game, usually to squash bugs and make sure everything is running, up and as it should be. And a lot of the times, especially in some of the bigger development studios, people will work incredible hours, being 15, 16, 17-hour days, 7 days a week for months on end. And we've talked about it before on a previous episode, but I wanted to get your kind of insight on crunch and you don't have to get specific about your experiences, but just kind of how do you feel about crunch? Like, have you had to deal with it before? Is it as draining as people say that it is? As people say that it is, and kind of what you think about the video game crunch in a nutshell. But yeah, so where I wanted to start was just kind of your feelings on crunch. Like, do you have any feelings? Have you experienced it?
Yeah, so I have experienced crunch in a few points in this sort of career, and I think initially I kind of accepted it as par for the course. We're kind of like a smaller dev team, so things probably aren't as crazy as they could be in like a larger studio. But I remember when we were first starting the FIG campaign for the project that I'm working on, I was still working a part-time job at the time, and by part-time I mean like 30 plus hours, so it was almost full-time.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was doing that and then coming home after work and working sometimes until like the sun came up, and then I'd put it down, get a few hours of sleep, and then go back to work, and then rinse and repeat, and that would be like the setup of my week. And So it got to the point where I was like falling asleep next to my work and waking up and having it staring at me in the face. And it did get a little depressing. And at that time, I was living, with a roommate. And so we kind of worked on our own schedules. And but once we got things underway, I was able to kind of work things out where I was still working long hours because as an indie developer, you kind of get used to that.
Yeah.
And I think what changed for me was that when I met my partner, who I've been with for about 6.5 years now, it introduced something outside of what I saw in front of me. And so it kind of like pulled me out of that cycle. And even further than that, he saw that I needed an outlet for my stress and like some sort of physical activity incorporated into my work schedule so that I had some sort of balance. And so he, for my birthday one year, he got me jiu-jitsu lessons. And so that kind of forced me to remove myself from the context of work all the time. And it also helped me to find a little bit more of a sense of balance. I still, work pretty long hours now and still feel the pressures of crunch sometimes, but with that sense of balance, it doesn't feel like there's this constant weight on top of you as much.
So I just wanted to say, I remember like when I was working for them and I was working 2 jobs and we were living in Florida and how absolutely stressful that was. And that's something that we haven't really focused on is like the significant others of people who work in the industry. And that's great because at the time, like I was dating someone, but like it really was like work, other job, home. And it was like, I think I was stressed out all the fucking time when we lived together. Like I was just like on edge all the time, like so bad that like I got like the severe headache. Remember? And we had to go to the emergency room. Like I was just like, it was so much. And it's because like, if you're working at home, so like we worked remotely and James still works remotely, it's really hard it was for me, and I know it is for you, to balance your time between work because you feel like if you're at home, you should be working.
Very much.
And how much of that do you think is just like internal versus external pressure, right? Like, is it you feeling like, oh, if I spend another hour on this, I can make it better and like I can do this today? Or do you feel like it could be just kind of work itself being like, actual deadlines that are kind of breathing down your neck?
I think for me, it was a little bit of both. I think for me, I felt very insecure working at the company because I was one of the only girls there, and because I just never felt like my work was good enough. So that was like really stressful. And I know I would talk to James about it all the time, and I'd be like, I don't feel like I'm good enough. Like, I don't feel like I should be taking any payments. I feel like, and James is like, you have to be paid for your work. But I just did not feel like I was at that level. So I think for me, it was a lot of, I should be doing this. And I think I could have done better if I felt
more supported,
I think.
And it's not that they didn't support me. I don't want to say Interabang didn't support me, but I don't think I reached out and said, I think I did at one point. I talked to Justin and I like broke down and I was crying and I was like, I just don't feel like anything I do is like good enough, and I feel like you don't like anything I do and and it wasn't that. It was just that these were like my own insecurities about like my own working in the industry. And I feel like all artists have that. And I think being an artist is a really hard job, especially when you have to do someone based on somebody else's expectations and you're trying to reach that. So there's that mentality and there's crunch time. And when you're on crunch time, you're not really doing the best you can do because you're not doing it at your own pace as an artist. So it was a struggle for me, like a huge struggle.
It seems like art is not something that you can just like force to be good. Like it's not something you can rush through. Like you have to take your time and actually like put a lot of creative effort, and creativity is not something that just happens.
What about you, James? Is it more internal or external, kind of just generally speaking?
I think to echo what Destiny just said, it is sometimes a little bit of both. It's actually often a little bit of both, because I know for me, when I had a job that I had to go to and I had to clock out, it was easy for me to just let that go and let that be where it was. But when it's at home and it's staring you in the face, sometimes you're like, well, if I spend another hour or two on this, I could definitely finish this, or I could definitely make it look better. And then it's like, external elements like crunch and, getting it done on time, but still making it look good, just kind of compound, the pressure that you already feel sometimes. So.
I definitely feel like that's one of the hardest things, like as an artist working for a company, is being pressured to make something and you feeling like it's not the best you could do because you have like a time constraint and all of that. I know before I moved to Korea, like I helped a little bit with the character design and coloring of like the characters. And then I was like, oh, when I moved to Korea, I can still do this. Like I can still work remotely, and I just couldn't do it. It was just like way too much. And I realized like walking away from it, I feel like I learned a lot. And like I was happy that I walked away from it, because it made me realize that like I don't think I could work in an industry where I'm constantly being pressured to create something in somebody else's vision, because it just never feels like good enough, And the thing is that like they have a certain idea in their head, and some people aren't always good at communicating what their vision. And then they're like, okay, just do it. This is kind of what I want. Just do it. And then you spend a lot of fucking time on it.
And they're like,
that's not at all what I want.
It's almost like an expectation is like you as an artist should understand what they want.
Yes.
Right.
And that was fucking stressful.
I also have some other friends in the graphic design industry who have told me numerous occasions that sometimes like for independent graphic design work, clients are the worst part of the job, because they'll expect so much and they'll expect things that are sometimes not even like physically possible. Like if they're like, oh, here, I want you to incorporate this image into this work or something like that. But like, can you show me like the back of the image? And it's like, what? It's a picture. There's no back to this.
Yeah,
like,
things
what,
like
what
that.
What do you want?
Where people will look at your art style but expect you to do a completely different art style. You know what I mean? Like they see your work and what you can do and what you're comfortable with, and they're like, oh, I see you draw like people. Can you draw me a landscape with some dogs and maybe some cats and in a Picasso style?
And throw a layer.
To kind of touch on that, like, and I know Destiny, you were just saying about how like working on something that's not entirely your own. I mean, James, working with such like a iconic and kind of cult classic, franchise as the Jay and Bob Silent Bob series, right? The Clerks series. Do you feel that kind of pressure to get things done a certain way? Because I know you mentioned it earlier in the episode that you have a lot of freedom. Do you feel like a pressure to animate or to make things a certain way that's based on the characters, or do you kind of like putting your own little spin on it and kind of making it feel more your own?
I think I like to focus on with the source material, like with characters that are directly from the source material. I try and capture certain elements of that and have it be faithful to the, to what it's referencing. And I think that I put a little pressure on myself where that's concerned, because it's like, people that are playing it are going to be like, oh, these are the characters that I watched in the movies. This character wouldn't do that, or he wouldn't move like that. And so you don't want to be responsible for a mistake like that. But with the characters that aren't, canon, or like they're not from the films or anything, I feel pretty complete freedom with those. And I always, it's force of habit, but I always give the characters like some sort of backstory and a voice in my head. And I always give them like certain mannerisms and posture. So like it makes sense for the characters. So that way it kind of creates that sort of suspension of disbelief. Like they're like, oh, I've seen that person. I've seen that, mall security guard before, or, whatever the case may be.
All right. Nice. I have another question, kind of trying to bring it back to the crunch aspect, but also for artists specifically, is it normal, as someone like, I've never been in the art industry at all, is that kind of normal to bring a lot of work home with you? I know now you physically are required to bring work home with you, but because you're talking a lot about working at home, falling asleep at your desk, and is that normal? Is that something that's
it
like
depends on the company you work for. Like Interabang is a small developer, so a lot of the people they hire don't live in the same city, so they don't like work in the office space, so they work remotely. Period. Right. So I wouldn't say it's like common. It just depends on what kind of company you work for. So like if you worked for Blizzard, you wouldn't take that home.
You just do it at the office.
You would just do it at the office. Yeah. They would probably not want you to take that home.
Let alone how much home you'd actually be able to go to, right? Like especially in something like Crunch. Right. Does working remotely like that, James, like is that something that you like? Because like, especially for me, like just kind of looking from the outside in, I know even like when days at work are hard, right? Like even for us, our job is great, but there are shitty days, right? Like I know like being able to see you and talk to you and like be physically around each other is something that can kind of help me deal with the anxiety or with the mental health aspect of any sort of job. Is working remotely all the time, do you feel that sort of camaraderie with your team? Like it's kind of being in the trenches together, or is it something that you're used to working by yourself, so it's something that like you've just kind of grown accustomed to?
I'm only laughing because I wish you knew the team. If you knew the team, you would know why.
I think so with some of the team members and everything, like you build a sort of like rapport and you build like a certain level of familiarity. So it's like you start to realize at the meetings every week, you realize people's personalities, and so our meetings aren't like office board meetings, and it's not really as formal. So and plus the source material that we're working with, Jay and Silent Bob, is crass as hell. So it's like a lot of the discussions are like flopping balls and like boobs.
Yeah. Even when I worked for them.
Yeah.
And
they did not care.
Yeah, so it's really fun, and it's kind of a nice little time to commiserate and like joke around and all that. And I think so. I think that's fine. Working from home, I think now I have like a strong support base here. Like I said, my partner, he's been very supportive, and so he gets when he understood what I was doing and like he saw the process of animating and like character design, he got it, and he's been nothing but supportive. And it's been good. I've fallen into my rhythms, and I'm getting to bed at a more reasonable hour these days, so it's good.
I'm glad he's making you do that, because you would make me angry, because he would like, James is like a yes person. Like you ask him to do something usually, and if you're like his friend, he'll be like, yeah, even though he has like a fucking mountain of things to do. So it would be like, James, just if you can't do it, just let me know. No, I got it. And you find out he didn't sleep at all. So I'm really glad that your partner is like supporting you like that. No, I'm so serious. He is the most supportive partner I've ever seen. James is so lucky. I am so jealous. Like, even for his birthday, he bought him this shirt with our webcomic on it.
That's awesome.
Like, and he shares our webcomic every week. James doesn't even share our webcomic.
Facebook. I'm bad about that, but I do share. I like it and comment on Instagram. So
he does like it. Like if he sees it on Instagram, he'll like it. Yeah. He doesn't share it, but he'll like it. But my point is, it's okay, because I don't share it on Facebook either that often, so don't feel bad. I think next time we have a topic, I would love it if you could ask your partner if he would like to answer some questions about being with someone who is in the game industry and who has to go through their partner going through a crunch time, because that is something that we haven't really talked about, and we don't actually have like a lot of people we could bring on to that. But yeah, he is amazing. I'm not going to say his name. He is amazingly supportive. Like, James is so lucky, but also his partner is very lucky to have him.
No, I think that'd be a really interesting topic. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you saw it. There was a documentary that came out after the new God of War game came out, where Cory Balrog, who is the executive director of the game, talking about like basically like not getting to see his like wife and kids and stuff for like an extended period of time. Like, and I think that's kind of like an untold story of people that have to live with people that are doing that.
Be very mindful of that. Like, so now I communicate it pretty openly, because in the past I would just be like, no, I'm fine, I got it. And then now I'm just kind of like, I'm stressed, just give me a minute and I'll come talk to you. But it's like, in the past I would just be like, oh, I got it, I'm okay. And then,
and you would not be okay.
That would not be okay. And I would, like she said, I would stay up all night, because it's like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to try my damnedest to make it happen, because I try and keep my word as much as possible. And so, even to my detriment.
You said earlier that, for sure, you said earlier that, like, especially when you first kind of joined the industry, right? Like, it was, you kind of accepted crunch, or like the longer hours was kind of par for the course, right?
Right.
Do you think that's commonly the case with maybe younger developers who are first starting out? Like, they accept something like, they accept crunch just because this
is the way it is.
Yeah, this is the way that it is. So this is the way that, I just have to kind of grind it out. Or do you feel like this is something that, should be changed as time goes on? You know what I mean? Like, is it something that you kind of accepted because you felt like it was just normal?
I have a question to add on to your question. Yeah. I know, like, before he came on to Interabang, I was working there, and so he saw what I was going through. So I want to know if, like, because you saw what I was going through, did that, like, affect how you, when I told Justin to bring you on, if that kind of was like, well, I see what she has to go through, so I know at some point in time I'm going to have to go through that as well.
I think I was mentally prepared for it because of the stories you hear about it and all of that. And I think, and I don't want to like speak for anybody in particular, but I feel like at certain points that was the case a lot of the time, that people just accepted it because, you don't want to risk losing your job. And I know when we graduated, jobs were so scarce,
So scarce.
And so people were doing whatever they had to do to keep their jobs. And so I that might have something to do with it. I think it may have been the case that this has like been what's been happening in the industry for a long time, and so people just haven't like challenged it. That could be it as well.
Do you think that like in the future, is crunch just always going to be a part of the industry? Just because from a lot of the research that I've done, and from people like outlets that have investigated it and talked about it a lot, there kind of seems to be like two main camps of thought, where you can try and alleviate crunch as much as you can, but it'll always kind of be there. Or do you think that this is something that can and will change as kind of the industry continues to kind of mature and evolve, that maybe 20 years from now, crunch won't be a problem anymore? Or do you think that's just like an inherent part of the industry?
I think to an extent it might be an inherent part of the industry, just because I feel like, deadlines are going to be there regardless. I think how people choose to handle them might need to be challenged at some point, because I feel like in a lot of cases, especially with some of the games that have been released recently, I feel like people would probably like to wait a little longer for a game that's as good as it could have been, versus, rushing to meet a deadline and releasing a subpar product. But again, it has to go through a lot of channels to get something like a deadline changed. So I think, again, crunch is probably going to be a part of the industry.
I think as long as you have like the human, like as long as you have people like working, I mean, like obviously there's always going to be some crunch. Sometimes people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Sometimes you have to fire people, like so many things. It's such a volatile environment.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like anything could happen, and any small inconsistency is going to add to that crunch time at the end, like close to the deadline. I know, like when we were doing Interabang, we went through a couple of programmers. So like, and like you go through a couple of artists. Like it's kind of like a rotating door almost.
The turnover rate is high.
Yeah. I would say the turnover rate was high for us because we were a small indie company, and it's not like we had like huge games under us that, you know what I mean? It was like their first game, so it was like people expected a certain thing. But in a small indie company, people are wearing many different hats. And you're doing a lot of things. Like you might have been brought on to do one specific thing, but because the team is so small, you end up doing multiple things.
Right.
You know? And so that's also bogging that person down. You're not able to complete one project because you're working on several different projects.
Right.
So it just depends on how like a company is. I do also think like crunch time will always be there because there's always something that's happening that you just can't control. It's not a controlled situation.
Right.
So that's
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, guys. Well, I think that brings us to a good stopping point for this discussion. There's one piece of news that we're going to hit on here, and that one piece of news is I'm pulling from an article from Wired.com coming from the way of Julie Muncie. Unreal Engine 5 has been announced. This week, Epic Games, a company that makes engines and prints Fortnite money, debuted a tech demo for Unreal Engine 5, the newest iteration of its popular Unreal Engine. So this is going to be released in full in 2021. They released like a 9 or 10 minute long demo running on a PS5, and the engine looks
it looks dope.
Beautiful. I've never heard the word triangle said so much in a presentation before.
So many triangles.
They're very, very excited about.
Well, that has to do with the modeling.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny that they kept bringing up triangles.
Well, that's important though.
I know. Well, again, I understand. I understand why. It's just that, like,
there's just an inherent comedy in the word triangle.
It's being said like they said it like 15 times over the course of the presentation, so it was just a lot of triangles. I understand how impressive it is. It's just like there's a lot of triangles.
Okay, can I just because when we went to school James went for game art and I went for animation, but because at the time we went, they started turning animation into 3D animation, and the point is that having so many, it takes a long time and a lot of computer power to render a scene. So the fact that they're able to do this with this engine means like things will look, that's why things look so realistic, because in the beginning it used to be you modeled everything as low poly as you could, and then what made it pop was your texture map. So now it's kind of like we're almost at the same level. People are able to model things in like high definition, and the game engines are able to run it.
Right. Nice.
So there's more details and things like that.
Right. Yeah, I think it's super cool. It's obviously going to be a little while before we see any kind of results from this, because it's going to be a second before it comes out. But another thing that they actually announced was that for indie developers who want to use Unreal Engine 5, they're able to use it without any sort of costs. Like they won't. The only time they'll have to start paying Epic is once they break $1 million sold. So I think that's super friendly, and because from what I understand, Unreal, it's a pretty great engine to use.
There's a reason why a lot of developers use it.
Yeah. Do you guys use Unreal, James?
I
have no idea.
No, I believe we use Unity.
Nice. Okay. Cool. Have you played with Unreal ever at all? Do you have any experience with it whatsoever?
None whatsoever. Actually, we used I believe we used the old Unreal Engine in school. I don't remember which version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what version it was.
Yeah. I think it was probably, I think 4 came out 10 years ago or something like that. So we're
old.
It's been a second that they've come out. Yeah.
We probably used Unreal 1.
the original
Back to
Unreal
the original
Tournament.
when things looked like they did in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to feel Unreal Engine 5 a lot next gen.
One thing that I think I also want to shout out, have James or Destiny, have either of you used ZBrush before?
Yes.
I think that's one of the cool things. Have you used it, James?
I haven't. I've seen it being used, though. Yeah. I wanted to.
I don't know. Right. Destiny, if you've used it, can you tell me, because the video made a big deal about how now you can just basically like port things from ZBrush to
that's
Unreal
what I was
Engine,
saying,
like, instantly.
Because we can now model things with a high poly count.
Right.
You can just model. You don't have to make something low poly and rely on the textures.
Yeah.
Because before they would model something, they would make it in ZBrush, and then they would export the texture mapping and put that onto the low poly model. Now you don't need to do that. Now you can just make it in ZBrush with all the nooks and crannies and wrinkles and pores, and you can just take that
and just like, it works,
and just put it into Unreal without the middleman.
That'll hopefully make it like so much easier for artists.
It will. It'll make it a lot easier, and it's gonna look a lot fucking better.
Although we'll see what that does for file sizes, because in the video they're showing off this like movie quality asset statue. Apparently like one of those statues is 10 gigabytes.
Oh my god.
Of like data. That's raw though. That's like uncompressed and everything.
Yeah.
But still, that's a lot. So we'll see.
But
what
that
means for file
includes
size.
like it wasn't just a blank model, right? That included the texturing, the hair, and the animation. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh no, I don't mean the character model. I mean like they in the video they go into this tomb and there's like this one statue, and then they enter a room with like 100 of those statues.
Yeah.
One of those statues was 10 gigabytes.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I think they're going to come up with some creative storage solutions then, if and compression to be able to get that down, right? Awesome. The last quick thing that I want to shout out for anybody who's listening, you can catch GTA 5 free on the Epic Game Store until May 21st. So if you're interested in owning GTA 5 and spending absolutely nothing, hop over to the Epic Game Store, grab it there. You also get like a $10 coupon when you get it, completely free. So like anything over like $15, you can use $10 completely free.
Is this towards the quarantine, or they're just giving?
They're just doing it. Epic Game Store does they do free games quite often.
Okay.
And this is just their latest one. So maybe I'm not sure if Corona had any impact on it or not, but they have like a huge sale going on right now. So if you're interested, hop over there, get GTA 5 for free. And there's also like, they're going to be doing more free games like every week throughout all of May. There's like a leaked list that apparently includes like Civ 6 and the Borderlands, the Handsome Collection, and I can't remember the last. Ark Survival Evolved. So keep your eye on there if you want to go and get some free stuff. But yeah, just so you guys know, if you want GTA 5 free, go get it there.
Destiny, you don't like Ark?
No. I went like one time, like really quick story, and this guy liked me, but I didn't like him. But he invited me on, and then I didn't play for a while. And he got upset because I started talking to someone else, and he's like, "Oh, haha, I killed you and ate your body."
Oh my god!
It looks like you dodged the bullet there.
He fucking freaked out, and he's like, "I don't know why you're so upset. It's just a game." I was like,
That's a red fucking flag.
That's weird.
Right. That seemed a little
Like, even if
spiteful.
you can do it in the game, like that's fucking weird." And he was just like,
he just wanted you to be he just wanted you to be a part of him.
Oh Jesus Christ!
meet the weirdest fucking people. I swear.
Oh my god. But yeah, well, that brings us to the end of the show. James, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed your time with us and we didn't mess with you too much.
No, it's been a blast.
Thanks, baby.
Anytime. Yeah, we should do this.
Your viewpoints were super interesting, so I'm glad we got to have you. We got to have you on, and hopefully in the future we'll get to have you on again. And like Destiny said, if we're able to set up some stuff with your partner as well, it'd be really cool. Hear his side of the story as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end, guys. So please continue to like, support, and share it. Catch our new BOB game series on YouTube. Our new episode went up a little bit ago with Watam. See Darren get more and more emotionally devastated while I get angrier playing this stupid fucking game.
It looked really cute.
Thanks,
I like
Destiny.
cute, quirky games like that.
I do too.
Yeah.
Sure. Anyways, catch that on YouTube. Please like us on Facebook as well. Catch us on Instagram. We're Burnout Brighter on Facebook and YouTube. We're Burnout Brighter 7 on Instagram.
And check out Jay and Silent Bob Mall Brawl.
Yeah.
and keep your eyes posted for the new one, which James is intimately working on. And we'll definitely keep an eye on how that development goes as well. So the new one's called Jay and Silent Bob. Remind me again. Chronic Blunt Punch. Awesome. Keep an eye for that in the future. Well, that brings us to the end. So Darren, anything left that you want to say?
No.
Destiny, what about you?
No.
James, anything left to rattle around up there?
No, just keep doing what you guys are doing. You guys are awesome, and it's been a blast. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Thank you for coming.
On.
Yeah, we super appreciate it. Wow, you guys did that in sync. Look at the synergy here. Again, Destiny, say bye.
Bye.
Darren, say bye.
Bye.
James, say bye.
Bye.
I know it is. We'll catch everybody next week. Thank you so much. James, once again, thank you. We'll see you next week. Peace out.
I take everybody's mom.